So going over FIFO costing here is the next piece. And really the idea here is we want to distinguish the cost of the work that was already done and the work that's going to be done. So best to look at an example. Same idea that we had before, same exact problem. We're just going to look at how much cost we have already in the beginning work in process before we start. So beginning inventory, we had 10,000 units, and then we had 40,000 units started. So FIFO is first in, first out. So we completed 44,000 units, but these 10,000 units got completed first, even though 40,000 got started. So let's see, there's a 5-step process here. So first we see that in the beginning WIP there was 10,000 units, right? Now how much more do we need to add in equivalent units to finish? So materials were already 100% done. Labor was 30% done, so we needed to add 70% of 10,000, which is 7,000 units. For labor was 40% done, so we need to add 60% of 10,000 units. Now, with the 34,000 that started and completed, we did 34,000 units of work because it was from start to finish. Okay? So, an ending work in progress, it said to us exactly how much material, none of it was done. So 6,000 units. Then 50% is 6,000, and 60% of 6,000 gives us the 3,600 here. So moving on to the next step, step 3, we're looking at our WIP in the beginning there. We're seeing material, labor, overhead. Cost per equivalent unit is step 4, right? So what do we do here at step 4? We take the equivalent units that we arrived at, which was 40,000 for material, and we divide it by the cost, right? So we have 44,000 of costs added divided by 40,000. Okay? So equivalent units we see the equivalent units that we calculated for material, labor, and overhead. Right? And now we just divide the costs by the equivalent units that we arrived at. And which costs are we using? We're using the cost. This is the 40,000 that comes in. And then the cost we have as shown right here, which is $44,000 for this one. And for the second, for labor, we have 22,440. And for overhead, we have 43,600. So this is cost per equivalent unit. This is regarding cost added in June. Okay, so this is just regarding costs added in June. So we have a cost per equivalent unit there. Now, flow of costs in June is going to be different, right? So first we have our June costs added to complete the beginning. Alright, so we have labor, which is our 7,000 units we calculated, and overhead, which is our 6,000 units that we calculated, all at a price that we just added. So it's giving us the total cost of the beginning WIP, and then June costs, we know it's 34,000 units at each applicable price. And then we have total costs transferred out, and costs remaining in WIP is the equivalent units we had at each applicable price. So just to go over again, I want to go back and see here. The key is that I'm looking here at my cost per equivalent unit, and that's just based on the cost added in June. So the cost added in June here is 44,000 for materials, 22,440 for labor, and 43,600 for the overhead. Based on these amounts, I'm calculating using which equivalent units? I'm using the equivalent units that I computed here, which is the composition of just the piece that basically got transferred out. So it's just what was transferred out, 34,000 material, 41,000 labor, and 40,000 overhead, plus whatever was an ending work in process. So together, it's these equivalent units. And that's what I'm using here for this calculation.